In this short video, we will cover different quiz settings you can configure in your Dean Vaughn account. To begin, let's go to your course admin page. From there, proceed to Quizzes. Find the quiz you would like to edit and simply click on it. This will take you to your quiz settings main menu, where you can edit different properties across 3 different tabs: Properties, Restrictions, and Assessment. Let's start with Properties. In this tab, you can change the quiz name, set the number of questions you would like to appear per page, and click Apply. Click here to prevent moving backwards through pages, or here to shuffle questions at the quiz level. You can also create a description for your quiz, create a page header, or a page footer. There are also some optional advanced properties, like you can click here to allow hints, disable right-click, disable email, instant messages, and alerts. And finally, if you would like to receive an email each time one of your students submits a quiz attempt, simply enter your email here and click Save. Let's move on to the next tab. Under Restrictions, you can also set up different properties. So let's just start from the top of the page. If you click here, you can hide this quiz from your students. Here, you can also set a due date for your quiz. And under Availability, you can set up a start date and an end date for your quiz. If you set a start date and an end date, your quiz will not be available to students after this end date. Let's scroll down to Other Options. Under Optional Advanced Restrictions, you can set up a password or an IP restriction for your quiz. A password will prevent your students from taking the quiz unless they actually enter this password. So unless they have the correct password, they will not be able to access the quiz. You can log in and change the password at any time. If you would like to prevent your students from taking the quiz at home, you can set up an IP restriction. In order to do this, you will first have to find out what your school's IP address is, and then click on Add New IP Range. Now, if you want to restrict access to only your school's IP address, and let's say this is your school's IP address, then just enter it here. And once you're done with that, simply click Save. If you set up an IP restriction, your students will not be able to take the quiz from home or any other place other than the school or whichever location this IP address belongs to. If you want to remove this restriction, simply delete the IP range. When you scroll down to timing, you can set a recommended or an enforced time limit. The recommended time limit by default will be 120 minutes. You can also edit this, change it, increase or decrease the time limit, and then save changes. The enforced time limit is also 120 minutes by default. You can change it. You can also create a grace period, and then below, you can also decide what happens after this extended deadline or grace period ends. When you're done setting up these restrictions, click on Save or Save and Close. Let's move on to the Assessment tab. The Assessment tab features a number of options that will determine how quiz attempts are graded. So if we start from the top of the page, here you can automatically publish evaluation, meaning your students can see their score as soon as they submit a quiz attempt. If you click here, Synchronize to Gradebook, this means that a student's score is automatically recorded and published in your gradebook. Under Activity Completion Tracking, you can decide when the student is marked as complete. So if it's marked as complete after they've submitted a quiz attempt, or a student is marked as complete when they've scored a certain grade or a percentage. So the student is marked as complete if they have a passing overall quiz grade, which is a certain percentage, which you can edit here. Under Attempts, you can set the maximum number of attempts allowed per quiz. By default, all Dean Vaughn quizzes are set to unlimited, but if you would like to restrict the number of times a student can take a quiz, simply click here to open the drop-down menu, select a number from 1 to 10, and click on Apply. This will restrict the number of times your student can take the quiz. Under Retake Incorrect Questions Only, you can decide whether your students have to retake the entire quiz or just the questions they got wrong in their previous attempt. And finally, under Overall Grade Calculation, you can decide how the overall grade is calculated for this quiz. So by default, this will be highest attempt, but there are other options, so just open the drop-down menu to see the other options you have. It can also be lowest attempt, the average of all attempts, first or last attempt. Basically, what this means is that if you allow 4 attempts per quiz and you select highest attempt, then only their highest score out of 4 will count towards the final grade. When you've set everything up, just click on Save and Close. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching.